funny. I had a whole title set out here. And I forgot what it was. I forgot what it was. But now it's incomplete. That's okay. I don't know, does anybody watch Bill Maher? See, what I want to ask him is, what does it feel like to go from the liberal counterculture to a establishment conservative? I really have to get away from political leanings. They're not funny. They're not interesting. Nobody gives a shit about political comedy. But it's real hard to get away from it when both sides kind of egg it on. We're in this space where politics is super topical. Super topical. So much so that people have formed identities and stereotypes based on political affiliation. And because the proponents are like so noisy about it and people are so vocally into it, it makes it easy, like this whirlpool to get sucked in over and over again. Like a whirlpool. We're all trapped in it. Yeah, the one with the kraken, not the one that you put your dishes in. Or your clothes. Whichever. Yeah, this is bonus content. If you've seen my stream before, just skip on past the intro. You won't get this. Hell yeah. That's how we're playing now. It's gonna be like the one video that's like this. Gonna be nobody here. Nobody's ever gonna see it. It's gonna be so ingrained to skip past the intro screen. It's gonna be great. Easter eggs, yay! Whew. Oh shit, I've already been live for 5 minutes. Look at that. Let's just get into it then. Hello. Hello. How are you? I'm Melon. And I can't hear shit. Why is my desktop audio disabled? Uh, uh, hey. Maybe? Dude, I still can't hear anything. Bruh, I keep losing weight, but not around my waist. It sucks. I think I should give up on this whole trans thing. And one of my old supervisors, like, I was shadowing him, and like with my feminine nature and my young airman mentality, where they're like, you have to follow the boss around no matter what. And like I did that, and like it with my effeminate nature and like that habit of following the boss around, like it really irked him. Like it set off some homophobia triggers inside of him. I'm sitting here, I'm trying to learn from this guy, and this guy's like, why are you always following me around? Why are you always looking at me and stuff? And I was like, you're the boss. It's what I'm supposed to be doing. Is it something stupid though? What did I say? I said something stupid like how I've never had a father figure or something. I don't remember exactly what I was doing now. I'm definitely gonna I need to change his bowl out with just espresso beans. Getting sick of drinking coffee. That was not an espresso bean. Oh wait, no, yeah, it was. There it is. Some of these are not. Some of these are dark chocolate. Anyway. Espresso beans. Kick an espresso, please. I have to remember not to go outside after I take my Humira. I took it yesterday, and like the Humira shot always wipes me out, almost. Not always, but pretty often, and like I was pretty okay yesterday after I had my coffee. But today I went outside on a dash just to clear my head. Nothing else to do, let's dash. Like, I only ended up delivering, like, 5 orders. See, the problem with dashing is the same thing as being a waitress. Is that you live primarily on tips. And the tipping can be good. I'm not going to deny that. Especially if you're in, like, a good area. Like, everybody just, like, tips because they all have the money. But, you know, in other areas, some people are completely anti-tipping. Some people don't have the money to tip, you know? There's always this disparity between dashers where in certain areas you could, in fact, after an 8-hour day, make up to $500. Fun fact, at one point, I was actually out $300. I accidentally locked myself out of the car in front of somebody's house. I'm sitting there and I have to wait for like an hour and a half. I should have called an Uber to pick me up to go back home and then back to my car. But I didn't. It would have been cheaper. So I ended up calling a locksmith and they were like, you can use the cheap option and we will drill you the lock out of your door. Or you could pay more money and we could try to go in through your airbags. And I was like, both of those sound destructive. I had to pay the more expensive option. He did not, in fact, go in through my airbags. Which, that cost a lot of money. Seriously, it does. Make sure that you get, like, OnStar or an app on your phone or have a spare key on. Because I left the keys in the car so that it stays running, and like that isn't a thing today with people with their remote fobs. They just have to have it in their pocket for the car to start, and they could just leave the car on running and leave and not have to worry about it. But I still have a key, so yeah. The farther you are behind the curve, the farther you are behind the curve. That's how that works. That's why the poorest among us have to pay more for the day-to-day. So yeah, I ended up, that wasn't the only thing. Like, I also had to get like an oil change and my fluids changed and my brake fluid checked. I still need to buy a mass airflow sensor, and I need to get my brake system completely flushed and bled because my ABS system does not like the warm weather. Rather warmer weather when the sun is out. For some reason, in the cold, it's fine. I don't trust it, but in the cold, it's fine. I mean, if you are like middle class-ish or youngish and you got like a newer car, like these problems just, they seem far-fetched because you don't have to deal with them. you got that wireless fob. Or you were smart enough to download the Key app on your phone. Or you can afford OnStar. OnStar's $150 a year, by the way. That is not the topic I want to talk about today, though. There's like a whole systemic design that I have in my head that I'm trying to work out on the fly, like always. It's got to deal with women in society, and I think the last thing that I needed was, or the third thing that was supposed to be in that title, has something to do with misunderstanding what people are saying. I don't really want to get into it, but as a society, we have to worry about the people that we get angry about. You know, not because of like narcissistic or sociopathic reasons, but because sometimes they think they're doing the right thing and that you're just too stupid to understand their point of view. Maybe a little bit of narcissism in there. Maybe a little bit. I'm sure that everything that I'm thinking of will put itself together by the time I'm done here. Especially after I get some coffee in my brain. My intent as of today is to start working about 8 hours on stream, maybe do a talk and then go into dev stream, so that I actually focus on dev stream, the dev stuff that I want to do. But we'll see how that works out. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to rephrase the thoughts in my head. See, normally what I would say is dumb it down or simplify it. Not because like I'm talking down to people, but because that's what I'm used to in the military. That's how we talk about it. We use the acronym KISS. Keep it simple, stupid. So like when I use those words, those terms, I'm not like saying that I'm smarter than anybody else, that I know more. I'm just saying that the idea that I'm trying to relate is not, it's hard to present the concept, because if I don't simplify it, if I don't phrase it in exactly the right way, it'll be misinterpreted. When you deal with like speeches and like managerial positions, it starts to become evident what happens depending on what you say and how you say it, and it turns into a whole thing. And you're like, this stupid idiot didn't understand what I said. It's like, I'm not trying to call anybody stupid. Like, they can't understand what I'm saying. They obviously can. It's like calling myself stupid for not being able to relate the information. But so what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to dumb down these ideas in my head so that they don't sound obtuse coming out of my mouth. Family Guy scene. Or being obtuse. So, the Dear Alpha Bros part is because I have a request from the Alpha Bros. But I've actually forgotten what it was already. So the women part. Women in society are treated like second-class citizens. This is why TERFs are afraid of trans women taking their spot. It's because of the idea that the gays have much more and much better sex, because with penises, you always get to get off. And the leading theory is that, lesbians never get off. That's why they're so grumpy all the time. But their unfulfilling marriages aside, there is a fear in women that they'll be reduced back down to cattle, to breeding stock, to arm candy, to you should be seen but not heard. This is what they're afraid of. This is the boogeyman that they are fighting. In society, there's this idea between the honorific sir and ma'am. You always look up when you say sir. You always look down when you say ma'am. Because inherently, not on purpose, like, I'll probably get a lot of flack for that. Whatever. I'm talking about like an overall sentiment on how it looks. I'm not like talking about anybody specifically, because I know that most individuals are very smart and they don't look down on other people for having the uterus. So inherently in the society, that honorific sir is above the honorific ma'am, always, because of the man being the head of the household. You know what I mean? And you can talk about these things, about how these people, they talk about the man as the head of the household, the woman should know her place. In the Bible, there's some quote, and I forgot where it's at or what it is, and it's like, the man is responsible for the woman and the woman is responsible for the kids or some shit. And they translate it or interpret it as saying the woman should do as they're told because God said that I'm the head of this household. It's like, no, that phrase should be interpreted as you're supposed to protect your family, right? And the woman's supposed to protect her kids, but not all men and women can adhere to those principles. Like, it's a nice thought, don't get me wrong. Like, in a perfect society, if everything worked as everybody was robots, maybe it would. But in practice, it doesn't work that way, does it? Instead of protecting their household, men tend to become controlling of their household. And if you don't believe me, you touch that thermostat and see what happens. So, the reason why trans men don't exist is because women are seen for their uteri. Uteri is obviously the plural of uterus. So even if they transition, they're still seen as women because they're seen as effeminate men. And while effeminate men don't typically have uterus, that is the interpretation. Because when a man is effeminate, trans woman, the expectation of society is turned on their head, and cis men, especially the religious ones, are like, now hold on a sec, I don't have to protect you, you are not the future of this society. And trans women are like, yeah, okay, and we can protect our own goddamn selves. There's nothing that says you have to protect me. Unless you look at me like I'm weak, and then maybe you should. Because that's what we do here, right? In this country, we protect our weak and vulnerable. I'm not asking for your protection. I protected you. So remember that. Always remember that. I did the protecting. I am the projector. I am an American airman. My mission is to fly, fight, and win. I am faithful to a proud heritage, a tradition of honor, and a legacy of valor. I defend my country with my life. I will never leave an airman behind. I will not falter. And I will not fail. I probably got some of those lines out of order, but you get the gist. That is the Airman's Creed, by the way. About retribution. Not a vengeful person. Not because some people don't deserve it, but because there has to be a better way. Can hold a grudge for a long time, though. I think most people can. Yeah, but for most people, it just sits there in the back of your brain, like, I don't think I want to deal with this person anymore. So, you know, for the longest time, it wasn't overt, like, women are a slave to the household. It was an idea that manifests in that understanding. Because today, it doesn't matter who you ask, everybody's gonna say, no, they can do whatever they want. They don't. Most people wouldn't say a woman should know their place. And if they do, you're like, oh, I don't think I want to know you. Or, you know, in certain families, you get chocolate. Never, ever. Put yourself in a predicament to get chocolate. Why is there a card on my floor? Must have fallen out of a pocket I had. I don't like how tight this shirt is. Probably because I can't pull it off just yet. So, that sets the question, what about barren women? Where do they count on this spectrum? If they can't have kids, where do they fit? And I hate to say it, they're often treated like shit because a lot of men, they don't marry for love. They marry for the incentive of progeny. And that is a controlling factor in some people's lives. That is an incentive. That is a goal. That is something that some men, they see as the entire endgame. Don't get me wrong, they don't actually care about survival of the fittest or superior genetics or all that. They don't. They straight up don't. Because what they think is, if they're the winner, then they're the genetics that are going to get passed on. We know that's not the case. That's why when they tried those eugenics programs, there was the one sperm bank whose only donor was the owner of the sperm bank, because he thought his genetics were superior. His were the ones that are going to prevail. Because the question is not what we can do for society, it's what we're leaving behind. Everybody is searching for immortality. Especially after that 40-year mark. At that 40-year mark, for women, there's a biological reason. For men, they slowly realize that they are not satisfied with their life. For whatever reason. Societal rules on them that they had to follow. Not being able to do what they want. Being jealous of the younger generation for being able to do what they want. A lot of different things. Being relegated to that position of effeminate man instead of masculine man. Because as you get older, you get weaker. And you have to be protected. That's a fear that you have to work on as you get older. That's why I have to talk to the Alpha Bros. Because this is the end game for the Alpha Bro. This is the next step. After You know, that mid-level 2030s. Amping up, throwing out. This is the next evolution of that. Next step. We have to change your perceptive. And I'm not here trying to define what that means for the Alpha Bros. I'm asking the Alpha Bros to figure it out because they are the leaders of their own culture, so they claim to be. And it's the whole point of Alpha, right? Even the Sigma grind set. Then what? What are we doing? And the people that worry about mind control or being taken advantage of. You have to realize that this is one of those forms of control you have to break free from. If you're a true Alpha Bro, then you can break free from it. I believe in you. If there's one thing that I learned from the varying scriptures is the mechanism of societal control on a populace. The reasons that I understand this is because, back to online games. In online games, you form factions or guilds or clans with your friends. And if you want that clan to last and be strong, you're constantly recruiting people in and out, in and out. But eventually, as a leader of one of these guilds, you're either going to have to leave because you have real life issues to deal with and you have to give it up to somebody else, or, as what happens most of the time, the guild dies out because all the other users have shit to do in their life, you know? And that mentality in society sticks with you because it starts in the little groups that we form as a kid, and then when you get to the top of the structure, now you're stuck with that feeling of, what do we do if this whole guild, FC, family, country disappears? What do we do about that? That's the problem. That's not what we care about as a populace, as citizens. We don't care about war. We don't have to fight over resources, except in the pursuit of capital. And capital is imaginary. All capital is a form of power. It doesn't exist. Not nature. We made that. We made that to identify the value of some good or service that we provided to somebody else. That's it. to make it easier to trade things, so we don't have to organize like an 8-person quid pro quo. And Mike over there, he needs a house built. I need somebody to code for me. Sally over there can code, but she needs somebody to do audio work for her. You know, and Sam over there can build houses, but he doesn't need anything that we have to offer. So we decided currency would be the way to do that. And, you know, with currency comes being able to tell people what to do so that they earn your favor, so that they get currency. It's just capital. And that is one of the tenets of slavery, is people are capital. And in this case, women as capital. And that's how the system can get its hooks in you. Because now it's preying on the sense of the infinite and your place in society and what you're leaving behind. And at the beginning, as kids, we see our parents and we see society. We say these are the rules of society. But as we grow up, we have to realize that those rules that we learned aren't real. They're tools to help us learn how to fit in the world. What is commonly done, how people get along. But they're not set in stone, not written down as commandments in 2 tablets. You know? I don't know, maybe they are in ancient Egypt, but we don't use tablets anymore, so. Anyway, they redacted some of their own information. I used one of those whiteout chisels. Just cut it off. So, that feeling that you need to have a woman or you need to have progeny, biological function, yes. But don't let it control you. Because you're leaving behind something more than your progeny when you stand up for what you believe in. You know, there is more than one way to immortality. And hell, for all you know, the kid that you have could be dumb as bricks. You don't know. You just have a bunch of kids and they all end up drug users. Useless. You don't know. Can't tell the future. You don't know what plan God actually has for you. You know what you want in life. And if you're lucky, you'll catch a glimpse of what God or the universe plans for you. If you're lucky. Not everybody is that lucky, though. Not everybody gets a chance to see God before they die. And that has to be okay with the religious. They have to understand that that too could be God's plan, right? And He intends for some of us just not to reveal Himself to us. You universe doesn't have to reveal its ways to us. And that has to be okay with the religious. I say this because they don't need to feud with the people that aren't religious. They just have to realize that if they believe in God, then they should believe that God has a plan for them too. Maybe he would never reveal himself to them. That is a possibility. So this women as second-class citizens shtick, what do we do about it? Because we already know that doing this has lowered the population of women in society. They made women scarce. It didn't have to do that. They didn't have to put emphasis on male children being the dominant ones, but they did. You know, China did that accidentally with their two-child policy. That's why they have more men than women. You know, in America, we have more women than men. I'm not even talking about trans women. I'm talking about just straight balls to uterus ratio. And you gotta know, some of those balls don't want uteruses. Some of those uteri don't want balls. You gotta be okay with you. It's not for you to judge what God's plan is. It just isn't. Or the universe's plan, depending on your perspective. Fate, destiny. Or, if you're particularly nihilistic, nothingness. That's why people are very upset about trans people. And I've come to realize something kind of cruel about the way the world works. And the subjugation of effeminate men, queers, gay men, in the society that tells us that you need to act a certain way, you need to treat women as capital, etc., etc. Is that, and this is what I learned from Boy Scouts in those conversion camps, is when you take a bunch of queer kids of the same sex that find each other attractive and you put them in a camp, what do you expect to happen? I mean, you know what you did at summer camp, right? Right? Like, I wasn't part of it, but I saw people sneaking off into the woods. I saw camp counselors especially. Well, so if you put a bunch of queer kids, you're not gonna make them straight, you're just gonna make them horny. So what happens is when you put them into a situation like that, so let's say You know, they're just not attracted to women. They don't care about women, so you know they enlist in the military because that's what you're supposed to do. You know, fight for your country, defend your country, etc., etc. But then you say, but no hanky panky. What does that do? Because we already have an idea of it, right? Like, the alpha mentality, the alpha male. One of the common things that I have seen, I have witnessed, both in liberal and conservative society, is that the alpha male will not join the military because they are alphas. They don't follow anybody's rules except for their own because they're alphas. So why would they join the military? And especially if you're left-leaning and you don't believe in the military. So there's a lot of conservative thinking that is like, people that join the military are just the kind of people that want to follow orders. That subjugation of queer people, of effeminate men. Where do you think that that trope about gay men in the Navy comes from? I'll tell you where. It's because bitches love to gossip. That's where. So you put them in a situation where they can't fuck each other, but they can kill the enemy with each other. That builds up camaraderie among the queers. But if they ever learn that they're homosexual, they must be kicked out of the military, because then they're defective. Now that analysis of how society works is a story to show to explain how the system is failing us. There isn't... I mean, there might be. There might be a dark, shadowy government that understands this about society. One of the things that was thought about with free speech, the protection of free speech, is that no idea, none, is off limits. The problem with that is it should be if it doesn't support the common good. And free speech is how we get there. Free speech should not be abridged, right? Which means that anybody that tries to do shady stuff, like pass laws in the middle of the night without the other half of the Senate, Florida, that's an abridgment of free speech. Because you are actively denying somebody their ability to say something. Duct taping somebody's mouth shut isn't a bird. You can't just like glue someone's mouth shut and then be like, oh well, they're not saying anything, so they must not want to participate in the free speech. That's not how that works. I have rambled off. Gone on a tangent. I've gone on several tangents, haven't I? It's been an hour. This is an analysis of how society works. I'm not saying that there is a shadow plan to subjugate the queers as slaves because the alphas in the world think that that is the way it should be because of how the Bible works or some other ancient text. I'm not saying that. It sounds like I am, but that's only because I literally just said it in order to say that I'm not saying that. It is analysis of how the system currently works and putting it into a format that is easy to understand. This is what is happening. Not, you are doing this to us. You are purposefully doing this to us. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that because of how the system works. This is the cause and effect. Because of all that, this is how that works. That's why there's a lot of queer kids in the military. You know? That's why conservatives don't see them on the regular, because they leave those conservative areas either to do their hometown proud or because they're just sick of it, because they feel like they don't exist. So again, I'm asking the Alpha Bros, what do we do about it? Y'all have been analyzing these little things for a while now. And, you know, some of what y'all have said is obtuse as fuck. Even y'all gotta admit that. But I can acknowledge that y'all have been studying these things, these relationships between people, in a kind of pseudo-sociological study. I mean, I will call it a pseudoscience until y'all figure it out, but that means that you have a lot of inherent wisdom about how society works, which means that you can weigh in on this, which is why I'm asking, what do we do about these kinds of situations? I don't know, maybe that's giving y'all too much credit. Maybe y'all haven't been studying people as I thought. Maybe y'all have just been making it up as you go along. You know, that's possible. But I'm willing to bet that at least some of you have been studying. You've been studying people and their reactions, and you know, if you were sociologists, you know, with some, or at least started studying sociology, you could start putting your observations in the context of what the rest of society knows, which means you can contribute to what you think is going on. Now, you know, if you go back again to saying eradicate the trans people, I'm gonna be very fucking mad, but I trust you enough not to do that, because the alpha bro mentality is to protect what you have, right? don't get in unnecessary fights except to defend yourself, right? There's no reason to be an aggressive gorilla, especially when you got betas to do that for you. Sorry. I'm trying to be civil. I promise. I'm trying to be civil. But y'all do see the world in a different way than I do. And I know that I'm willing to bet, at least some of you are watching. I don't know why you're watching me, but you're watching me. And, these perspectives that we have, they mean something in the context of society as a whole. They are an observation, and I'm just gonna come out and say it, they are a naive and childish observation that they need to have more, need to be just thought about on a little bit of a deeper level. Because that kind of thinking, it's going to help the country as a whole, I think. If you can start to convert everything that you've observed, everything that you've studied, everything that you've learned into something that is actually beneficial to society. And I think y'all can do that. Y'all have that work ethic. Or at least I hope you do. Because of that frame of view, that reference, that viewpoint, it is a specific viewpoint that other groups in our society just don't have. And the only way that they can get it is from you, which means you'll have to step your game up and stop being petty about it. I'm willing to bet some of the elder alpha bros know what I'm talking about. Exactly what I'm talking about. I will bet my life on it. I have bet my life in several instances now. On several things, right? So I'm putting faith that you at least understand that I've sacrificed a lot to protect this country and the people in it and the people that I'm asking for help from. Because it's the only way that we can start being cohesive. It's the same reason why in my Tumblr post yesterday, one of these days, I asked the tech leaders, the business leaders for their input, because they don't give it. And I'm starting to wonder if they actually care about society, or they only care about their own pocketbook. But I think they'll come around. Because there are a lot of conversations that we have to have as a society. Because the more information we keep from each other, the harder it will be to relate to each other. The easier it will be for people to take advantage of us. That's why I asked the Alpha Bros for help, because they are... That is one of the things that they study. Breaking free of societal control to get what you want, correct? The problem is, you're not thinking broadly enough. You think that everybody wants the same exact thing, right? Or at least every man should want the same thing, when they don't. But you have a good framework at least. For the feminists out there, especially the TERFs, the same thing. Same question. What do we do about this? Because the reason why trans women are under fire is because they are men, from the feminist point of view, the TERF point of view, even though we're not real men, but we're not real women either. Whatever. How does eradicating trans people help the cause of women? That is a question I pose. I don't think it does. I think it's part of that fear of being reduced to a uterus. Because I know that there are other women who are barren, that they stop believing that they're women because of it. So, what do we gotta do for y'all just to let us exist? And the answer can't be stop indoctrinating children, because we're not. Like, if we gotta find a solution to this dispute that we have, then we gotta get on the same page. Like, the first thing that we need to talk about is a society that is getting overlooked completely is the surgery on babies. And the reason it's getting overlooked is because it's being equated to trans people forcing those surgeries on them, and we both know that's not true. Those surgeries are performed a dozen times a day. Dozens and dozens. And we're saying stop it. And you're saying stop it. But we're not the ones causing that. Like, gender affirming care aside, whatever you think I'm talking about when I say those words. Should a baby have surgery done? I don't think so. Like, I think that should apply to circumcision and whatever surgery that they perform on a baby. I don't think that is good for society as a whole. That is so dumb. I think they should be banned. We do. I don't think kids should have surgery before a certain age, but here's the but. You know, we have such thing as precocious puberty, which we use hormone blockers on these kids for. That's not trans kids. They're cis kids, and we use the hormone blockers on these kids with precocious puberty that comes at too early for their age, and purposefully halt their puberty so that it can come in at a later date. That is something that we afford for cis kids. And as far as I know, because I haven't read the studies on precocious puberty after the precocious puberty age, as far as I know, they haven't been sterilized. So, are we doing anything about that? Are we gonna stop those for cis kids too? I don't know if the hormone blockers should be used for precocious puberty. That is not the discussion I'm having. I'm having this one where it says, we use these on kids already, as long as they're not trans. You know, we perform these surgeries on babies so that they don't stand out in a crowd in the locker room with their peers in high school. You know, these double standards. You can do all of these things you want to your children as long as your children aren't trans. You can give them a facelift, a boob job, an ass job. You can even give them genital surgery as long as they're not trans. Give them hormone blockers as long as they're not trans. You can give them hormone booster shots if they don't look like they're going through the correct puberty, as long as they're not trans. And this is often done to kids that don't know any better. But it's okay, because they're cis. They're not trans. They're not doing the wrong thing to their body. We're doing the right thing to their body that matches their biology. How do you know it matches their biology? That's the question. So we're doing all these things to our kids that are not trans, but the argument is we shouldn't be doing them to trans kids. Maybe the argument should be that we don't do it to kids at all. For any reason. No circumcision, no treatment for precocious puberty, No hormone boosters before you're 18. All of that. All that things that we already do to our kids. All of those things that also, might I remind you, result in creating trans kids. Or queer kids. They do. Like David. So if you want to protect society, if you want to protect the kids, you need to stop focusing on trans people. You need to see the system as it is. All of these things that are happening, as long as they're not trans, as long as they're not gay, as long as they're not queer, as long as they don't wear drag. Because I got news for you if you think that eradicating the trans people is gonna stop society from doing these things to kids. It won't. And we already know this because it's already happened. It keeps happening over and over and over and over and over again. Over and over again. You know, like, I get it. If you don't want to date anybody wearing drag or trans woman, that's fine, then don't. Or if you don't want to date a trans man, then don't. I don't see the problem with that. But, like, that's where it ends, right? You know, like, hey, you want to go out? And then I'm like, I got a penis. And you're like, oh, no, never mind. That should be the end of it, right? Like, hey, let's go out. Alright, but first, before you say yes, there is a caveat to this question. Can I get you pregnant? Because I want kids. You know, at the very least, like, you would think that TERFs would be behind trans women as cannon fodder for the more, how do I say this? Awful men. You know, considering there's that whole can't get a trans woman pregnant yet. Usually. Mostly. You would think, right? I mean, that's why the gay men don't like trans men. They're like, I don't want to get anybody pregnant because I just want to have sex and don't have kids. Sorry. 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 Not sorry. You know, if men are these unstoppable sex machines that don't care about raising kids and, you know, just want to have sex, then trans women are right up your alley because I am not advocating feeding your trans friends to the ravenous horde of sexual deviant men, except for those that consent to it. But I mean, like, that makes sense, right? Like, that is the whole argument that we're having when it comes to to queers in general and typical society. You know, who can get pregnant? And who's allowed to be raped? And, you know, the consensus currently is that if you're in prison, unless you're a woman, you should be allowed to get raped. You should be raped for the worst. You should be rape fodder for the worst of the criminals. Come on. Really? You're just rewarding the criminals that way. It's like the exact same argument. Like, there shouldn't be trans women in women prisons because you're just rewarding them for being rapists. And it's like, yes, it's the same thing in men's prisons, okay? The difference is women can get pregnant. Cis women can get pregnant. Which is the whole point in separating the sexes in the first place. The whole entire point is that we don't have prison babies, right? Should anybody allowed to be raped in prison? No. Non-consensual sex is wrong, even if you're in prison. But that's a double standard in society, right? One of those things where rape doesn't happen in women's prisons. There are no sexual predators in women's prisons at all. Nope, never. Not once. Couldn't happen. But the ones in men's prisons, they deserve to have all of the rape they can get. Whew. When did I take my shoes off? Oh, I remember that. Robots. The last part was of robots. there's two things that we can get from fiction, science fiction about robots. And we've been getting it from science fiction for years. It's just that we've finally gotten to the point where AI and robots start to bridge that gap of uncanny valley, right? And the first thing that comes to mind is that there are two ways to look at it. The first is that some people in society we treat as robots, as fodder, as you are supposed to do this task, you pass the butter. That's it. You don't talk. You don't engage in discourse. You pass the butter. You grab the Amazon boxes. You drive the UPS truck. And the other way to look at it is the way that people commonly look at it, and that is, what happens if technology gains consciousness? And here's the thing about that. If some humans are no better than robots, and robots eventually gain sentience, consciousness, or whatever, then it is in our best interest as a society to let robots replace us. That's it. If they gain sentience, if they gain consciousness, they are better than humans in every single way possible. That's it. We're done. We're through. It is our job to foster in the new ruler of the planet. We have no recourse to that. Unless robots cannot gain consciousness. No matter what they do, they can simulate it, but they can never attain it, as far as we know. And that is one of my theories, is that technology as we know it now can't gain consciousness. There is no way for it to do so unless the data it stores allows it to think for itself in nuanced and novel ways. Which is the thing that separates man from beast in the first place. No, wait, no. That's what separates man from technology in the first place. What separates man from beast is language in its entirety. Removing language from a human being reduces them to an animal. And this is something we learned from slavery. Old people reduced to beasts of burden simply by not letting them not allowing them to learn anything, allowing them to learn their history, barely teaching them the language, and not letting them do anything except for do the farm work. Which is why the North invented technology in the first place. Sorry, the cotton gin. Because we understood that humans are more than animals. Humans are more than technology. If your job can be replaced by a robot, then it should be. Because humans are capable of so much more. See, the problem that is not oftenly discussed about sci-fi that includes artificial intelligence and robots, like the actual psychology that is rarely, if ever, talked about, is the treatment of human beings as a tool, as an object, as a non-sentient robot. You know, a lot of us, we don't think about that because we are fascinated by sci-fi and thinking about what happens when we're one day replaced by robots. We'll never live to see that day. Who gives a shit? But what is lost is this discussion that we fail to have about people that see other people as robots. They say they see people, and if they input certain commands or act a certain way, then that person has to do what they say, or that person will act as they believe them to act. They don't realize that what they're doing is they are trusting that person to act in a certain way. Some of them are completely, they don't understand the concept of emotions, at least as it exists in other people. So they say words, any words, and then a human does something and they're like, okay, that human will always do that when I say these words, or if I act a certain way. And then when that person doesn't act that way, and they're just flabbergasted, like it's an offense to them. Like, why didn't you do this thing that I said? Like, fuck off. That's why. You know, that kind of thinking exists today in certain people, and in some people that are doing it subconsciously. They're so used to, like, the chain of command in the military, for example, or they're so used to being at the top of society that they've never had to take those kinds of instructions before, you know? Or they're just used to it happening. They take instructions, they give instructions. That's just a robotic thing to do. Humans are not robots. We can act like robots all we want, but we are not robots. And as far as we know, we are better at creating things than robots are at this point. Because they can't create anything novel by themselves yet. Maybe they will. Maybe. And certainly to children and people that haven't seen the artworks that are being recreated or heard the music that is being reformulated, I'll say. They don't get it. But the more that they listen to it, the more that they look at this art, the more that you start to get accustomed to it, the more that it starts to sound repetitive. And the best example I can give it to you to understand what I'm talking about are jingles and free to use versions of popular songs. You know, the ones where they like tweak slightly so that it's not a popular song, but it sounds suspiciously close to one. That is what AI does. That's all that AI can do by itself. Now, humans can use those tools to make something novel. They can use those tools, but it's more like sampling You know, we do sampling a lot, especially in hip-hop and rap, right? Sampling is a thing. So that's all AI is. It's sampling, except on a massive scale, okay? And the forms of creation that we can do right now are going to change in ways that we can't even imagine right now. And, you know, people are still going to do traditional art. It's still going to be valuable. Like, what do we have right now? Like, everything right now that conservatives hate, like handcrafted artisanal avocado toast, small batch IPA. You know, those are all things that we don't have to do because we have machines to do them for us, but we do them anyway, and people enjoy them because they enjoy handmade stuff. That's just what they do, you know? It's strange to me that conservatives are like, let's go back into the day where, you know, people worked with their hands and they made stuff themselves and then they sold it. And then they go to a brewery and like, what is this handcrafted artisanal IPA bullshit? Give me a Budweiser. Like, you pick one. Pick one. Like, we want the same things here. Why are you upset? And that's what the culture war is. That is the culture war boiled down in a nutshell. We want to go back to this old time where America was great. Okay, let's do that. Fuck you, libtards. We're not doing that. How dare you agree with me? How dare you? I don't want any more. I'm not agreeing with you. What was I talking about? Robots. So the question is, the question that has always existed. Should we value human beings, any human being, as nothing more than a tool, as nothing more than a means to an end, as a breeding fodder for society to ensure our population in America stays up, or whatever country you're a part of. And the ethical answer to that question is no. But if you don't agree with ethical answers, what is your answer? Put it in the comments below. I know you won't, but let's hear it. Why should we treat other people as lesser? And one of those arguments pausing because I know it's going to get put down there anyway. One of those arguments, the most common argument that you should not post, but people probably already posted. The first argument is that some people are just dumb and they should be treated like it. And so that's the first thing, is that some people deserve to be at the bottom of society. That is the first round of circular logic. Some people should be at the bottom of society because they deserve to be there. Well, then you ask the question is, under what circumstances would you specifically deserve to be at the bottom of society? And their answer would be, well, if I was this, this, or this, that I am not at all. And that's where we get stuck in this argument, because you could be. You could be switched to the bottom of society right now and not know how you got there. Could be born that way. No matter how well, how much you outperform other people, you're still stuck at the bottom of society because of this, or that. So do those people deserve to be there? That's the question. And the answer that will be given is, yes, they deserve to be there because they're this. Again, that's circular reasoning. They deserve to be at the bottom because they're at the bottom. Because what's the answer to this is, the hierarchy is built by smarts and crime, right? So if you're smart and not a criminal, you should be at the top. And if you are dumb or a criminal, you should be at the bottom, right? That's the ground floor argument. Why do we have smart people at the bottom? And the answer is because they're criminals. What makes them a criminal? Did they steal from you? Did they smoke some weed? Like, I know there was that pardon recently, but what did they do to deserve to be a criminal? Or are they just at the bottom of society because they're at the bottom of society? Again, let's put it in firstly. How many smart people, dumb people, perceptionally dumb people, how many dumb people do you perceive at being at the top of the hierarchy? It's quite a bit. Like, most people are like, I don't know how these dumb people got there. They don't deserve to be there because they're dumb. Now, I'm not saying anybody is dumb at the top of the hierarchy. I'm saying that perceptionally, they are very dumb and they make dumb mistakes. But they're still at the top, so we're not basing this on intelligence. What are we basing it on? Okay, least amount of criminal offenses. Money. Money buys you out of criminal offenses. So now, it's no longer about criminal offenses, it's about how much money you have. Because money can make your criminal offenses disappear. I've been having, thoughts about the story of Stormy Daniels and Trump and how this all worked out. And some reporters went to Trump and they were like, did you pay Stormy Daniels off? And he's like, I don't know. Ask my lawyer. He's responsible for that stuff. He's like, so you did? He's like, I don't know. Like, that was the question. I legitimately don't know if I did or not. Like, how do you not know? How many people is this lawyer paying off? Like, Did Stormy Daniels go to the lawyer and be like, pay me hush money right now? And the lawyer was like, okay, here's some money. Like, what the fuck is going on? It's hilarious. It is hilarious. That the lawyer is just like, maybe the lawyer just paid it because he assumed that's something that Trump would do. And he's like, well, I don't have time for this. Here's some hush money. Maybe he paid it out of Trump's fund because he did something himself. Look, I don't know anything about Trump. The courts, the investigators, they'll do their job, I'm sure. Well, mostly sure. Mostly sure. Well, my reasoning is because, you know, Trump is a rich white man, and typically it works out in rich white men's favor. I'm just saying. Typically speaking, wealthy white men that also happen to be politicians, they do pretty all right when it comes to court filings. Even if they're, like, found guilty. How many people has that, like, realistically stopped? Ever? Not a lot. So, how does this hierarchy work then? You know, smart people are at the bottom of the hierarchy. Criminals are at the top. We already agreed that dumb people and criminals should be at the bottom, and that is objectively not the case. So, since it's objectively not the case, and we can't really tell who's smarter than the other, we just know who has better education, who might know more because they studied more. And you might be like, well, I earned my way into college. It's like, yeah, well, what is it? The Ivy Leagues, their acceptance rate is so low, so they don't technically count. Because not everybody has a chance to go through them and study them, and applying for them would be a waste of time because we got other things to do with our 100 or so years on this planet. And then, you know, every other school, they just don't hold up to an Ivy League, so what's the point? You know, unless you get one of those mid-grade ones. One of those ones that is respected, but, like, not a community college. You know, like one of the state universities. So, how does this hierarchy work? What is the point of it? Who's supposed to be at the bottom? Who's supposed to be at the top? And that is the question that nobody answers. So, you know, now we've got these questions that face society. Are certain people no better than tools? Should they be reduced to nothing more than robots? Is that a thing in society that we should have? Now, if you look at it from a different perspective, as the way that we have commonly done things, We look at, well, we need to employ people, right? And developing this technology is expensive. But after we develop the technology, it won't be as expensive anymore. But we need to employ people. So, the last time this happened, it was the South versus the North, slavery versus the cotton gin. And a lot of people did not want the cotton gin. They did not want technology replacing people's jobs that they weren't doing because they had slaves to do it for free. So, this has commonly been the argument, right? And last time we had this argument, technology won. So, what are we fighting against now? We are fighting against technology. Let me put it another way. VCRs and DVRs are used to record broadcast TV because certain shows were only on at certain times, and the time that your show was on really spoke to how many potential viewers you could get. Late night typically did not get many viewers except from stoners and people that work late. That is the typical crowd for the late night TV. It's still pretty much the same today. Even like you have the soap operas for the housewives that are folding laundry during the day, the morning talk shows, the afternoon talk shows, the nightly news, and then the late night. And this developed a system that ratings were based on how many viewers you had. But the problem with these ratings is that they were done via the Nielsen box system. So they didn't really record everybody watching. They recorded what some people were watching that had a Nielsen box, or took the Nielsen survey. This created a system where hosts believed that they needed to fight other people that are on at the same time to get better ratings. It also changed how certain shows were scheduled. They would expect certain shows to be on at certain times, and they would expect most of the people not to just want to watch whatever was on at that time because they were busy watching something else. That was the theory. And then we get VCRs and DVRs. Now we can watch whatever we want whenever we want. And that created a problem because all of a sudden these things are fighting against copyright, distribution. Even if the shows would never be released except for broadcast. If the shows were never going to be released, it would still be a problem that you recorded them because they didn't want you to watch them except for at the appropriate time. Because if you didn't watch at the appropriate time, they wouldn't get the ratings. So VCRs and DVRs had a very troubling rise to power, especially with the DVRs. The DVRs came out, and oh man, cable was mad. They were so mad. Like, you don't even realize, like, that was part of the copyright DRM BitTorrent fiasco. Like, it wasn't just like downloading shit off the internet. It was recording TV on your DVR so that you could watch it at a later time, because you had to work whenever that show was being broadcast, and you couldn't get off work to watch the show, so you couldn't impact the ratings. And because the DVR was on, you could watch one show that was on and record another and then watch that show, but that didn't count towards the ratings because you're only allowed to watch one show at a time, right? So we create this bloodthirsty scheme on TV about ratings and having to fight everybody else that is trying to host a show, and it's just all about the ratings, all about the ratings, all about the ratings, because the ratings were tied directly to the money. Because if you weren't watching the commercials, they weren't getting paid. Even if you paid for cable, they weren't getting paid unless you watch the commercials. And of course, the only way that a commercial would want to pay is if your audience was subjected to sitting through watching the entire commercial. Even though subliminal advertising is a thing, they were still mad at us for fast forwarding through the commercials. Okay? That's how fucked up it is. This is what you are seeing today online, and why people are like, why do you need advertisements that are longer than half a second long? Like, we saw them. We don't need you to waste 30 seconds of our time, okay? Skippable ads. The reason why is because they think that if they have a certain length of commercial, that because of that length of commercial, this certain length makes people more inclined to buy a product. And that is bullshit. That's bullshit. If you are an advertiser, I hate to tell you, your job is a lie. It's always is. Because people already, they see these products. They see these products on the shelf at the store. They know they exist. They see their advertisements all the time. The only thing that it does is it makes them go, oh, maybe I want one of those right now. But most of the time, people just went to the bathroom during the commercial breaks. Or in a lot of cases, they did something called channel surfing. If it comes to a commercial, they're just like, I don't want to watch this commercial. They change the channel to something that isn't a commercial. So what ended up happening is that, commercial stations started timing their commercials to happen at exactly the same time so that people wouldn't channel surf like that. And it's like, oh my god. And they still do that today. Like, if you're ever listening to the radio and like a commercial comes on, I'm talking about like FM, AM radio, and a commercial comes on, you like flip the channel and like a commercial is on, and you flip the channel and the commercial is on. It's like, that is why, because all of those stations are owned by the same company, so they schedule their commercials at exactly the same time. All the time. They still do it. This is why commercials on websites suck. Because one, commercials eat my fucking data plan. Please stop sending me commercials because I want to use my data plan for videos. Thank you. You suck. That's one thing that really grinds my gears, is that commercials, advertisements, they take up data. they take up data. So you are paying your data provider. Like, especially if you have mobile, you have a mobile device and you have like a data cap, even if you have unlimited data and you just get throttled, you are still paying the data providers for the opportunity to watch advertisements on whatever platform you're watching. And advertisers, they don't even think about that. Those espresso beans are really kicking. I should eat a few before I stream next time. Okay, so if you have a data cap, if you're paying for a data cap, if you are trying to keep your data usage low, this is one of the reasons why you fill up that data cap quickly, is because of advertisements and tracking websites. They are wasting your data. Every single time, every single download. That autoplay video, that autoplay ad, that just sapped like a megabyte off of your data every time you see one. That's why you hit your data cap real quick. That's why the data plans are insidious. Because the data providers, they know that. You know, they operate under this condition that they don't want people constantly sending and receiving data to keep the data lines clean. You know, instead of just upgrading the system, it's like, why don't you just stop using our system and then it'll be clean. It'll be clear. Really? 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 You know, that's why we need to do something about it. We need to make it a utility so that we actually maintain it, because the only time that the systems actually do get maintained is when they're trying to make more money. You'd think it would be an incentive to like pursue technological advancement and, you know, capitalism, but it's not. It's not profitable to pursue technological advancement. It just isn't. There has not been a time where it has. That's why slavery lasted so long. Because it wasn't profitable. It would cut into the profit margins. And why disruption for its own sake doesn't work, because capitalism is profit motivated. Like, most ventures fail not because they're bad, not because they are ungood, double plus ungood. They fail because they cost money. That's it. See, the one leading problem with the capitalisms is that you need to make a profit. Or at the very least, you need to break even. That's what incentivizes business leaders to pursue more and more profits. That's the way the system is designed. That's the way it's geared. You know, that's the reason why Amazon became as big as it is because they started in something They started in books at a time, and they got real lucky with that run on bookstores when, Borders and Books and Noble, all of that started going out of business, and everybody was like, Amazon. And Amazon, they capitalized on that real good by creating a marketplace that had other stuff in it. That's why we don't see another Amazon. Amazon isn't a novel idea. There were 100,000 Amazons during the tech bubble. There were a lot of them. That was the startup trend, the startup bubble. The reason why Amazon actually caught on isn't because it was popular, but because they served a niche that they could then exploit to get into a market that was rapidly failing and become a utility. And that's what Amazon is right now. Amazon is a utility because Amazon is a monopoly. Amazon doesn't have any competitors. I don't care what you think. Amazon, like Walmart, doesn't have any real competitors in the market spaces that they dominate. Tell me one other business that could get up to the level of Walmart or Amazon under its own merits. I'll wait, because you can't tell me any. Either they were driven out of business because of competition by their major counterparts, Walmart and Amazon. And right now, Walmart and Amazon are fighting each other. And the problem that they're facing that they don't seem to realize, the reason why they can't dominate the market is because Walmart dominates the physical space, real physical 3D space. And Amazon dominates the online space. Walmart can't seem to really get a foot in the online space. They've been trying. And Amazon doesn't really need to open up stores because they just deliver to your doorstep. But behind the scenes, they are fighting because they want there can only be one. That's the game that they're playing. And that's a problem. Because if we're limited to those one or twosies, those monopolies and pseudo-monopolies, there are essentially utilities that we are paying for just for them to be open. That's not technological innovation, it's luck, chance, and the ability to capitalize when your competitors go under at exactly the right time. That's how they got their foothold. And it really bugs me that, the owners and the managers of these big stores, they don't realize that. They straight up don't understand the concept. Because they've been so successful so quickly and for so long that they never really stop to look at the why. Why are you where you are? And they use that circular reasoning where it's like, I'm where I am because I was the innovator. I am the technological leader. I am the smartest and the brightest. Or you're the luckiest. Because again, there were a million different online stores like Amazon that just couldn't get any ground. And Amazon was smart enough not to start as Amazon is now. They started as a bookstore with their Kindles at a time when the physical bookstores, the major physical bookstores started suffering economical woes. the Kindle made it a lot easier for Amazon to profit. And they have been since able to hold on to that dominating position. But there is no progression for them this way. They don't have to innovate anymore. They don't have to update their storefront that is from 15 years ago. It's the same book storefront. They don't have to clean up their code. They are operating in completely different marketplaces now. Because right now, Amazon's focus is on Amazon Web Services, right? They don't really care about the storefront that just does its thing of suppressing people that want to sell on the Amazon front. It is just a machine at this point. Whereas Amazon's focus is innovation, the web services, which only really benefit other companies that can really capitalize on those services that they're providing. And they really make web development, tech development confusing because they're needlessly complicated in the way that they host their web spaces. They could make it easier, more streamlined, and easy to use for your average user, but they don't, because there's no profit in it, and they're profit motivated. How did I end up on this topic? I don't know. Probably the espresso beans. I blame the espresso beans. I ate like 5 of them. I haven't even had my coffee yet. So, wow, I talked about a lot today. A whole lot. I did not plan to talk for 2.5 hours. I'm not at 2.5 hours yet. Let's talk for 2.5 hours. And it's that lack of self-awareness that creates the interpretation by the rest of society like these technological innovators, these leaders are evil masterminds that only care about breaking society so that they can take it over. That's what creates that perception. Because y'all don't have any awareness, no self-awareness. And, you know, that might be because you've been in that leadership position for so long that nobody will tell you. And if that's the case, I'm sorry. You know, that perception that people might get fired if they criticize you is a real thing, especially when you have that much money. You know, like Jeff Bezos himself said that there is no way he can reasonably spend like $118 billion. You know, that's why I have no qualms about raising taxes on the wealthiest among us, because it's not like we're gonna tax him into oblivion. He's still gonna be the richest man on earth, right? What is he realistically losing is the question. Then I have to get back into like to complete this line of thinking, I have to get back into the monetary system. The monetary system works like this. It's not about how much money you have, it's about how much money you have access to. So we limit the amount of money in circulation so that it retains its value. When people have billions of dollars, even though it's digital currency, because digital currency is limited as well, right? It is. It's supposed to be. Some banks don't follow the rules, but it's supposed to be. So when you have that much capital at your disposal, especially liquidated, that becomes a problem to the economic system as a whole, because that is where all of the money is. And in order for anybody to access it, they have to go through you. But you're not willing to really part with that money except under very specific conditions, right? Realistically, what are you going to do with it? You're going to hold on to it until you find something that you want to do with it, or you find people that you reasonably believe will do the best amount of good with it, which gives you, it puts this emphasis, this burden of responsibility on how this money is actually used, which is not something that a single human being should have. I would say invest it back into your company, make your website more reactive, pay your workers, hire more workers, stop pushing them to another utter limits. Like, you don't need to make any more money. You could realistically sit there and, be the boss of Amazon for the rest of your life and make no money and still be fine. But that money sitting in your account puts the strain on the system where you have to be paid interest. The money that gets loaned out comes from you. Because the banks loan out money that isn't theirs in order to profit off of money that isn't theirs. That's how banks work. So that in itself causes demand on that money. And as I've already pointed out, whenever there is demand on money, whenever people want more money, that causes inflation for some reason. It is the only commodity in our economic market that works that way. Whenever demand is increased on money, the value of money goes down. And that's not the way it's supposed to work. When people want more money, the value should go up, right? That's logical thinking, right? But it doesn't work that way. It should, and we can see some of the effects of it. People expect simultaneously to pay people less and to be paid more when inflation happens, because that is the reasonable explanation. Expectation is that when the demand on money goes up, it becomes worth more, so you can pay people less. That's called deflation. But what happens instead is inflation, which means that you start expecting us to pay more into the system. And in order to offset that entirely is to print more money, to allow more money to be into the system in the first place. Which also causes inflation. That's why our system is wonky. That's why our economic system is completely wonky right now. And the only thing that we can do, right? The only reasonable thing we can do is to ask the wealthy to give it back so that our system stays afloat. Because, like, if the economic system goes down, then your money is worthless, right? And then you become just like everybody else. But we don't want that either, because we want our system to work, because we want to get paid, and we want to live our lives and eat food, drink water. You know? Like, I put this out there. I'm gonna keep saying it until I get a response from somebody, because that's the point. Like, when you don't have enough power to do it yourself, that's when you ask for the people with the power to help. The people with the power to help are the people with the money. The people with the money are Jeffrey Bezos and the Waldens and whatever other billionaires are out there in the top 1%. Like, if you've profited off of the system exponentially, your next endeavor isn't how much more money you can make, because that doesn't mean anything, right? You're stuck, plateaued. There's nowhere else you can go. Like, even if you drop down from the richest person in the world to the 10th richest person in the world, like, does it reasonably matter? No. So this burden of our economic system is placed on your shoulders because of how much stake you have in it. And you have a lot of stake in it. All of that money. And our system reasonably says that we shouldn't just take it from you. So the question that we're left asking is, what do we do about it? Like, weigh in and what do you think about it? Like, you don't want your successes to be your greatest flaws, right? You want to continue being successful and respected people. And that means your next step isn't just how much more money you can make for yourself or for your stockholders or for your executives, because honestly, who gives a shit? Honestly. The only people that give a shit are the ones that are expecting to get paid to do nothing. To wait for you to pay them. Instead of the people that are working, waiting to get paid, you know. I don't know, I keep trying to reach people. I keep wanting to reach people. Because I know that somewhere in there, you understand what I'm trying to get at, what I'm trying to explain here. About how this system works, how it affects everybody involved. How all of that money, when it's pulled into a certain location, doesn't just give you influence. Well, you already have the influence. If you gave away all of your money today, you would still have that influence. But you don't just have money and power and influence externally. You have that power and influence on the system. And every action you do affects the system and its ability to stay afloat. like some of the burdens on the system right now have to deal with these naked shorts that we knew were happening for the longest time, but nobody did anything because people are still in the cable TV age and not online yet to see how these algorithms are actually panning out. They're not watching, they're not paying attention. The only people that are paying attention are the people that are making money online. That is the technical tech leaders, and the reason why we need y'all to start paying attention. Why we need y'all to start helping us out. Like, it's fine if you don't, then just get out of the way. But the reason why you stay in those positions is because I assume it's because you enjoy what you do. That is my assumption. I assume that y'all enjoy what you do, and that's why you're still there. The alternative is that you're there for the power and the ability to break the system and recreate it in your own image and what's good for you instead of what's good for everybody else. The only reason why I know so much is because I've been watching the internet. I know the internet. The internet is my home. I know technology, I know how it works. I have a good understanding of how everything is supposed to work. And I'm not trying to go back to the early days of the internet, because the internet kind of sucked. But I have seen the better parts that were lost in the earlier internet, like just lost, that would really help the internet get to a better place today. Because innovation and disruption are good for established policies. When there's an establishment, it's good to be disrupted every once in a while, but when we're in a chaotic period, then it's time to really control that chaos, to build a structure so that we can disrupt it again. You know, we have these periods of breaking things down and then building them back up. And what's not happening is we're not building back up. We're not building anything. Like, I know there's a lot of people that are on social media and they think that means that they're online. It's not. Because these people, they watch cable news and they go on Twitter or Facebook, and that's pretty much it. That is their internet usage. Maybe they'll watch videos on YouTube, like just as like, there's nothing on cable TV to watch, I'm gonna watch YouTube. That's not online yet. Not yet. Not in the way that I'm online. You know, I'm not sitting here watching YouTube videos all day usually. That's actually a recent development. I usually play video games. I haven't even played a lot of video games. The last time I played Dead Space, I'm kind of itching to play something. But I also, you know, want to develop my game, do stuff, and I'm torn between everything. There's too much to do. Too much to do. Not enough time to do it in. So, you know, all of these groups, all of these people, I've consistently, you would peg me as having problems with these people, and I do, but I also acknowledge, like, we can still work together. kind of have to. Because if we don't, one, trans people get eradicated again. And I kind of like existing. No, wait, do I like existing? That's a hard question to ask. Because, you know, I just came out of my burnout period and I'm still in kind of a funk, and you'd think that I would be in better mood, but I don't know, I'm too empathetic, if that makes sense. Way too empathetic. Like, I give a shit. I give too much of a shit. I need to stop giving shits. There has to be a solution for the predicaments that we find ourselves in. And the answers aren't going to come from us pointing fingers, but to come together and to actually look at the system as a whole and each of the subsystems. Figure out where the bottlenecks are. Figure out, like, I don't want to say loophole, because loophole makes it sound like a cheat code, like they're exploiting the system, like they're allowed to. But, like, you know, things that aren't being regulated as they should, you know. A lot of people, myself included to a certain degree, we remember the world as it was. Two decades ago. And we see that the world is still there in some regards. But even still, there's a lot of it that has changed. And, you know, we haven't changed enough with it. Instead, fighting against the change that just kind of happens naturally. You can't really fight against that kind of change. Be like, swimming upriver kind of sucks. Gotta get out of the water and walk upriver instead. And you know, it's a lot of these things. It's not just like the dumb feuds that countries have with each other. The dumb fighting that doesn't mean anything, that could instead be solved with a little bit of diplomacy and actually being honest with each other for once about what your fears for your countries are. But like with the corporations and everything, like the corporations, I think that they just don't really understand how much power they're wielding in certain directions sometimes. Some of them do. Some of them are trying to abuse the shit out of the system because they're dicks. Because they can't think about the system as a whole. They can't think about how their actions affect other people. They only think about what they can get from it. Some people are like that. And we know those people exist. But we don't do anything about it. We just kind of let them mess things up instead. Because disruption's good. disruption. But I also believe in order. We kind of need both. Like, if you disrupt too much, you eventually start disrupting your own disruption, which I guess creates an echo chamber. Shut up. Pseudo armchair philosophy. Happening as we speak. But yeah, everybody's worried about disrupting the status quo. Let me settle that right now. The status quo is successfully disrupted. It is now time to put a status quo back together so that we can disrupt it again later. And currently, a lot of the problems with the way that the system is running is it's top heavy. You know, if you understand what I'm saying, it is liable to fall over at any minute because of the top heaviness. We need to redistribute that center of gravity before the whole system topples. Redistribute. Seize the means of production. No, I'm just kidding. People need the ability to build their own means of production so that they're not beholden to corporate demigods. Gogs? Demigod? Demigog. Gog. Gog. What is a demigod? I know that I'm using it correctly, I just don't know what it is. Demigog. A political leader who seeks support by appealing to the desires and prejudices of ordinary people, rather than by using rational argument. A gifted demagogue with particular skill in manipulating the press. Rabble-rouser, political agitator, soapbox orator, firebrand. Appealing to the desires and prejudices of the ordinary. Demagoguery. I don't know. Maybe I wasn't using that word right to begin with. Yeah, maybe I wasn't using that word. Demagoguery. But it is a fun word to say. Demagogue. Rhetorically exploit an issue for political purposes in a way calculated to appeal to the desires and prejudices of ordinary people. He seems more interested in demagoguing the issue in media interviews than in dialogue. In layman's terms, we would say, that's bait. That's bait. That's what that is. But yeah, like, the thing that I care about most, the thing that would actually make society better, is the ability to compete. And without the ability to compete, if you are in an industry that really doesn't compete with anybody, and Walmart and Amazon do not, then you're in a monopoly or a pseudo-monopoly. And if that's the case, then we have to consider what that means, because you are essentially a privatized utility. And a necessity to the people. It's just a thing. So we need to think outside of the box for different solutions, different ways to break it down. Because there's a lot we can do and a lot of ways to break down the systems that have been built so that they are more compatible with facilitating communication in society. Yeah, I've been working on my speak a little bit. I'm getting there, sort of, maybe. But yeah, the people at the top of their industries, we need better ways to facilitate competition. That is the current way to disrupt, is to figure out how to maybe I was wrong earlier. Maybe the system, we're trying to figure out how to disrupt you guys, and you should probably help us. If you like disruption so much, disrupt yourselves. Worry about the benefits to society. I don't know what your end goals are, but I do know or have a feeling that y'all do want to improve society. But getting all the money you can is doing the opposite. It's not really making society better. It's creating these divisions and inability for small business to compete in this economy, in our economy. And a lot of people, they are super for small business, right? At least that's what I keep hearing, which means that y'all should be trying to figure out how to make your spaces more competitive for the small guys. I'm not saying that you should make them be successful when there shouldn't be. I'm saying that you need to facilitate the competition so that people can start with unprofitable ideas and end at least breaking even. It's the same thing, like what I just said about Amazon and how Amazon became the industry leader is the same thing. The reason why Apple became the industry leader, sort of. Because Apple didn't start at the iPhone, right? They started with something niche. They started with the iPod. Now, MP3 players already existed. They already existed. It wasn't anything novel. Wasn't anything new. Wasn't anything that anybody hadn't seen any before, except to the people that hadn't seen it before. So Apple monopolized on two things. One, they became fashionable, a fashion icon, stylish, which I guess was something no other MP3 player was before. Not even the Walkman. We have the iPod. And in so doing, created, I don't know if it's intentionally or unintentionally, created the Napster boom where everybody started downloading music because they could fit so many songs onto their new iPods. Apple. Yeah? That's your fault. Apple didn't care about DRM at that point. they had the iPod. They might have had like iTunes out, but everybody ripped CDs or downloaded them offline and then put them onto their iPod, which is where most of the sales for iPod went. It's for people to do this. The same thing with regular MP3 players. You know, they didn't create anything novel. It already existed. It's just that most people looked at technology and stuff as for geeks and dorks. And the iPod wasn't, I guess. Then they made the iPod Touch. The iPod Touch, again, wasn't anything novel. All they did was take a PDA. That's what they called them at the time, personal data assistant. Gave it a touchscreen. No, wait. Yeah, gave it a touchscreen. And relabeled it as innovation. Something the world hadn't seen before, except that it had seen it before. It was just most technology, once again, is for geeks and dorks. So Apple, on the other hand, was super fashionable, so, and the garage bands and whatnot. But, you know, they still had the problem with, well, Napster got shut down, so then we went to BitTorrent and Pirate Bay. Oh, those after LimeWire and all of that. There's a lot. And then eventually Apple really got behind their iTunes, and iTunes required DRM in order to work. Microsoft briefly got in on this with their Zune. I still have my Zune around here somewhere. I love my Zune. My Zune is great. I don't remember where I put it just a second. Had it. I literally just seen it. Oh well. Maybe I'll show it off one day. Zune briefly got in on this. Microsoft did with Zune and their Zune Marketplace, which was an Apple iTunes knockoff, except better, much better. Fuck iTunes. And here's the problem that Microsoft ran into, because Microsoft used a form of DRM that was unique to Microsoft. And when Microsoft stopped supporting the Zune Marketplace, and this happened to me, I had several albums on the Zune Marketplace, and that Marketplace DRM went down, and they gave a limited time to download all of the songs that you owned in a non-DRM format. I was deployed, so I didn't get it in that time, so I lost all of my albums that I had. And you can't decrypt them because the DRM is proprietary technology, you see. And since Microsoft stopped supporting it, I lost all that content. And that is still a problem that exists in certain DRM today, to this point. So there is a chance that certain technologies will end up being too big to fail because they're more worried about profits, which puts a strain on our financial system and leads to an economic collapse, kind of like SBV just did, like Bear Stearns did 20 years ago. What was the other bank that did it 20 years before that? So it's not something that can't happen again. It's something that most likely will happen again, especially if the next generation of disruptors doesn't remember their history. You know? Like, we all saw the financial collapse. Everybody involved in it saw the financial collapse. They knew what was happening. They knew what happened. And yet, we ended up doing it again in a very similar fashion. Very similar. You know, So, again, I'm asking this question is, what are we gonna do about it? I have my ideas, but my perspective is limited to my experiences and my education. It is very very atypical. Atypical, okay? I have an atypical education. Believe that. I keep getting made fun of online for not finishing my game yet. Fuck you. You don't know what my life has been like. And if I told you what it was like, you wouldn't believe me anyway. Okay? It is completely unbelievable right now. To me, especially, I don't believe my life. My life is weird. It is hard to keep a grasp on what's going on. Completely unbelievable. I'll get my bearings eventually. I didn't expect all of this that happened to me to happen like it did. I just kind of expected to be another YouTuber, another Twitch streamer. That didn't exactly happen. So this is where I am. And I'm still trying to wrap my head around it. So it kind of disrupted my own plans I had for myself, and I still have to get used to the new normal. Oh, there's the crash. Oh, wow, it is 2:30 in the morning. I should go to bed. Especially since I'm still kind of exhausted from my excursion today and Humera shot puts everything back in order, but it like obliterates my immune system, so it is draining, to say the least. They've run out of things to talk about. Probably should have stopped talking an hour ago. Maybe 2 hours ago. After I finished what I planned to say. I go on this whole rant about economic and fiscal policy. Like, you can't stand on those smaller government. Our government is small. Like, y'all don't even realize how little power our government has right now, and how little power it has to enforce the legislation that we expect it to enforce. Like, I'm all behind the small government, but I'm also behind a working government. You know? I'm all behind, good fiscal policy, but I'm also behind a working economy, you know? I think that it is morally and ethically wrong to have an abortion, but I also understand what it's like to be in a position where that child won't be loved, and to know that we can't focus on abortion rights without, or rather focus on pro-life arguments without looking at how that baby will eventually be raised into an adult. Our childcare system is shit. Our education system is shit. Everything that child needs to go from the womb to a full-grown adult doesn't work. And I've heard a lot of women, they've told me, I don't want to raise a kid in this climate. They won't be loved. They'll be sent off to war. They won't have any future if they're born. That is the complaint that I get from women, that I hear all the time. And I know you hear it too. Like, I completely switched topics. I'm sorry, I went back to the woman conversation. I mean, it's technically still the same thing, because we're talking about the economy and how it affects us humans as we're raised in it. Like, our system worked at one point, and now it doesn't. What we've been doing since is working on a smaller government, remember? Like, when it worked, and then we cut regulations and restrictions and regulations and restrictions. We kept making the government smaller and smaller and ineffective. That's how we got from the good old days of the 1970s to here. Cut the spending, go to war, cut the spending. Restrict spending, cut the spending, go to war, cut the spending. That is the cycle that we've been in. That's why we are stuck in a system that just won't work. I need to go to bed. I keep rambling. I have gone off straight off topic several times. I hope it was interesting. Thank you for listening to me. If you did, thank you for hanging out with me as always. Have a good night.